Hi, today I'm going to show you how to transfer an image onto wood using the grid method. And so to get started here, we have a nice clean work area and a picture to draw from, along with the wood and wood burner. The grid method basically entails using lines to create a grid on your reference image. And then I tend to number the squares so that I can keep track of which square I'm in. Then you do a similar grid on the piece of wood that you want to transfer the image on and do the artwork on. And then you can just line up one square at a time and work within that one square. This helps keep things proportional and placed correctly in your artwork. It really helps when you're doing more complicated images. This particular reference photo has a lot going on with the reflections of tree branches in the water. So I chose to do the grid method here just because there is so much going on in this picture. And you can see I basically made squares that are the same size, and because the reference picture is a different dimension, the wood that I'm working on is more square and the reference picture is taller. So we're not going to get all of the image on the wood. I am cropping it down and we're going to lose the top part of the image and the very bottom. But I transferred the grid pattern and have started transferring the detailed line work just by pencil onto the wood, working one square at a time. And then within each individual square, using the lower right-hand corner here, you can kind of line up, okay, this is a little bit above the halfway point on the square, and coming over here, drawing it a little bit above the halfway point on the square. From there, you can get your context and work inward in order to reproduce your image. For this particular wood burning, I'd like you to think about the human impacts on the environment. We all understand that many human activities negatively affect our natural environment. Pollution and habitat destruction are two examples of negative impacts people cause. Many times, we approach problems like this from the angle that something is a problem and we need to fix it. However, for this activity, it might be of interest to approach things from a different point of view. Rather than approaching the concept of how we need to improve degraded habitats, I want you to start thinking with the concept of how to preserve habitats that have not been degraded. By changing our focus from the problem to the solution first, it allows us to have the time to internalize and understand what a healthy environment and biodiversity look like, and reinforce the concept that we do have healthy environments that need to be protected. Once this concept has been firmly established, then we can start discussing how to protect these healthy environments and how to clean up degraded environments. So the idea behind this is to draw a very pristine, beautiful, natural habitat that shows very minimal human impact. Using the grid pattern for transferring the image onto the wood, The grid method involves drawing a grid over your reference photo and then drawing a grid of equal ratio onto your working surface. Then you draw the image on your wood, focusing on one square at a time until the entire image has been transferred. Use pencil to draw the grid so that you can erase it when you are done, and measure out a set number of squares on the reference photo, and the same number of squares on the wood. Usually 1-inch squares works well on a reference photo, and then the squares on the wood will be larger if the wood is larger than the original reference photo. The size of the squares can be calculated for the wood by taking the length of the wood and dividing it by the number of squares that you used on your original reference photo. This will give you the number of inches that each square will need to be on your piece of wood. Once this is done, you can lightly label each square, 1, 2, 3, going across, and A, B, C going up and down, so that you can keep track of which square you are working on. Then you can easily see that a tuft of grass needs to be located in, say, 11C, or a bird needs to be flying in squares 5A. This helps to keep the proportions correct throughout the artwork and helps focus on doing the artwork in smaller chunks when one square is completed at a time, rather than being overwhelmed by the entire image. When you're done with the artwork, try to write an artist statement, a short paragraph about what policies need to be implemented to preserve, protect, or create areas such as the one that you depicted. What is preventing us from putting these policies into place? And why should we need policies in the first place? What is preventing people from protecting natural places without being told to do so through laws and policies? What other solutions could be created to protect our environment? Try to get your artwork shown with the artist's statement at a local nature center. So, one other little part that I'd like to point out here is that because this particular picture that I chose to do was fairly complex, when I started drawing out based on the grid method, I particularly focused on drawing out the dark areas. So my first going over and wood burning it was basically just wood burning black and getting the overall image down. And then I went back and in pencil, I redrew areas of intermediate shading. I broke it down into those 2 steps, partly so that it was a little easier for me to follow. First, I drew in all the black and wood burned all the black in, and then I erased all my pencil marks and went back through, and based on the grid, I drew back in pencil where it was intermediate gray shading in the picture. And then I went back through and wood burned the gray sections as a second time going through the picture. That helped me because with so many lines, keeping which ones were supposed to be black versus which ones were supposed to be gray got kind of confusing. So I broke it down into 2 steps rather than doing everything at once. I hope you really enjoyed this. I hope it helps inspire you to look at problems from a different way and think about solutions in a different way and try to incorporate those ideas into your artwork. I'd love to see what you come up with, and keep in touch. Thanks for watching.